Hey, welcome back, Cop Squad. We are here reviewing episode 3 of Harley Quinn season 5. Very excited to review this with Keenan and Mike. Let's how are you guys doing?
It's been a long, stressful week for me at work, because the snow day's been delayed. So it's kind of been, I had to work. I had to do like cover 2 night shifts, like from 7 p.m. to 3 a.m. in the morning, back to back. So I've been exhausted.
Yeah.
But I'm here, y'all. I'm good. I'm glad to see y'all. Hope you guys doing well.
How are you doing, Keenan?
I'm great. After a long week, I'm just ready to hug some trees and go into the green.
I do want to acknowledge, I know people who are listening we're all a little bit, it's been an exhausting week for a lot of reasons. The snow, the weather, people are sick, and then, the inauguration and things like that. It's been a long week. Just want to, hopefully this will be a fun, chill episode for you guys to listen to and take your mind off some of the shitty things that are happening right now. But before we get into the episode, we have some DC news to cover. Mike, you want to share some of the stuff that you dropped in the chat yesterday?
Yeah. So we got official casting for Lanterns, and a surprise casting, to be honest with you. I was not expecting to see this at all. Yeah, we got confirmed that Sinestro is going to be in the show. And the actor, I believe, okay, make sure I'm getting his name right. What was his name? It is Ulrich Thompson. He was in, I believe, The Thing in 2011, and also he was in, yes, he was also in The Blacklist as well. So yeah. So I mean, again, I don't think that I have any issue with the actor that's been cast, but the fact Sinestro is in the show, it completely now switches everything I thought about this show, because they say terrestrial story, and I'm just like, okay, all right, how are you gonna, people could be having issues with that, but then Sinestro, I was like, and then pairing that with Hal Jordan, him being the older Green Lantern, so there's history there. So, and I'm glad that we were able to get to see that. That was my biggest fear, that we're gonna see like a natural balance between the two. That was my biggest fear with it. But to have this Sinestro, his arch nemesis there, I'm completely excited. But
yeah, I'm excited to see how they tell his story, because a lot of times there is stories where he starts out as a Green Lantern and he turns into a villain. So I'm interested in if that's if we're getting a bit of a Sinestro origin story, or if he's already going to be a bad guy in this story. Yeah. So I think I'm excited. I don't know anything about the actor, which I think is better, because then I could just have zero expectations, which is how I feel about Superman. I don't have the David Corn Sweat. Is that how you pronounce his name? Corn Sweat. Yeah, I haven't watched anything of him, so I'm no expectations. I'm just excited to get that blank slate. But I'm excited to see Sinestro. We know that Supergirl is filming, and we also got a sneak peek of the back of her at I believe it's at a bar. It looks like she's at a bar with a hoodie on. And yeah, Millie Alcock is playing Supergirl. I'm very excited. We know that Jason Momoa. How did I blank on his last name? Is playing Lobo. We already know that he's going to be, if you haven't read Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow by Tom King and Bilquis Evely, you need to read it. It is so good. It is one of the really good, rarely good Tom King stories. I know, I'm sorry to the Tom King shade, but he's getting on my nerves.
No, you're being honest. Thank you.
He's getting on my nerves right now.
Mine too.
It's exhausting. I started out reading Black Canary Best of the Best. I was like, this started out so well, and now I'm like, what the fuck is happening? Wonder Woman, I don't know what he's doing with Wonder Woman. I try not to just don't let me vent. Anyway, but he's involved, but his Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow is excellent. So I'm excited to see where they take this movie. We get to see Supergirl as she's angry. She's an angry, righteous, clear-headed person. And that's my favorite type of Supergirl, is one that when they one that actually is angry. She remembers her planet. She remembers growing up on her planet. Let her be angry. So I think that I'm excited to see Millie. What do you think, Kanan, of the news?
So I don't know the Sinestro actor. I looked him up, and he's in a show called Banshee that I've been wanting to watch, and now I'm like, do I just want to wait until after I see him as Sinestro? Because like I want the blank slate. Like Supergirl is. Listen, I have to admit, I think the 80s movie was a good time. It was not a good movie, but it was fun. And it was of like the movies I rented as a kid. I rented Supergirl a lot. So I'm very excited about this, and I love Millie as young Rhaenyra. Like,
yeah,
my
it's perfect.
heart.
It's like textbook.
And so when they were like, "Oh, she's Supergirl," I was like, "Take my money. I'm ready."
Yeah,
she's so like ready.
Looks like her. Like looks the part. I'm like they're really nailing it. James and the casting team is really nailing it at this universe. Just alone, like Lois. I'm excited about Lois. I'm excited about Supergirl. I'm very, very excited about the cast of this new universe that we're about to step into. But yeah, I think that's all for news. Anything I missed? Anything I missed? No. All right, y'all. Let's dive into this episode. I believe it's called Back to School, but it could be called something else. We are still figuring out what the titles of these episodes are called. Back in the day, they were like, when you used to watch actual TV, I'm going to date myself, but there would be like a caption in the guide where they were like,
yeah, the T guide. I remember had Cox. You just push the button and it showed the guide.
Yes, yes.
Again, I missed that. Like, anyway. But yeah, let's dive into this episode. We get into this was a very focused episode, first and foremost. I actually love this episode. It's tightly focused on two main storylines, but it's really, really good. What did you guys think overall of this episode, Mike?
Yeah, I think again, when I think from comments, I think from previous seasons that people were kind of complaining about, like how some of the story points were kind of going all over the place. Again, the big strive of this season again is going in terms of Harley and Ivy's relationship going in a new phase, and I think in a realistic phase. That I keep going to like the strength of this show is that they're showing realistic and patterns of relationships that we all go through. Whether dating, married, whatever, and I feel like it's important to tell stories like that when people are having different phases. Someone dealing with their trauma, or someone from their past comes up while they're in a new healthy relationship. What they do, they want to try to not be honest about what them running into them in the store, grocery store, something like that, or whatever. Just basic stuff, right? But this obviously the extreme Harley Quinn show, and allowing that again, honesty is the best policy sometimes, especially when you're in a relationship, and as much as the truth might hurt, it's also again it leads to a pathway of freedom when we actually dealing with this together, not by yourself. And I feel like this, in the way that she was in danger, definitely being guarded and trying to suppress what was that she actually was going through, which is obviously her being a survivor, a victim. It makes sense, in that. But I think the writing of this episode, aside from like the Clayface, which is a whole separate thing, but like with this, I was happy to see how that kind of resolved with them. Harley helping her in a literal way of fighting this demon in her. That's been kind of been holding. When she felt like, oh, I can handle this all by myself. You can't. So, but yeah, I thought it was good.
Yeah, Keith, what about you?
Yeah, you always got to be honest with your partner, especially when they're a clinical psychologist. They're gonna get it out. And I love when psychology Harley pops out, and she's always going to do that. And I love the communication between those two, and that I think the show really does emphasize the importance of communicating with your partner. And so I'm just yes. And then Clayface is absolutely unhinged, and anytime he's on screen, and then they bring in Bane. It's always a good time. It's always a good time.
I agree. I thought it was a good balance. Like the episode's very well balanced. Like we're dealing with the relationship issues that are manifesting in some really violent shit, but we have some comedic relief. And I was like, at first when I saw Clayface, I was like, come on. I was like, part of me wanted to see a little bit more of the troubles with the old gang. Just a little bit more, because we just had King Shark and his kids last episode. So I was wanting a little bit of a break. However, as we got through the episode, I was like, okay, this is hilarious. And it brings in the Daily Planet into a much bigger part of the storyline. so I was okay with it. And actually it was funny, like him kidnapping Perry. Of course he would do some dumb shit like that because he was mad about the reviews for his one-man show. Of course. Like I think it's an interest. It's a smart way to keep those characters in, because of course, like they are main characters. But yeah, at first I was like, come on, Clayface again. Look, we're doing this again. But I like the way they did that, and I honestly think we needed some comedic relief, because this was heavy. Like Jason is let's talk about Jason. Jason is Poison Ivy's villain. Floronic Man. I'm gonna get this right. Floronic Man is Ivy's villain. Like no one can debate. Like people debate sometimes who Deathstroke's villain is. He's a Titan villain first and foremost. But no one can deny that Floronic Man is, I said it right, is Poison Ivy's villain, and he's her worst villain. We see this, and I love that the show really got that. We got into that episode 2, and then we really see the fallout of why her vengeance plan was not a great idea. And because she was so, we talked about this, because she was so overcome with anger and vengeance, she made a catastrophic mistake, and it bit her in the ass this episode. Seeing her get it was painful. Like I literally love Poison Ivy so much. She, in this particular version of her, is one of my favorite versions of her of all time. So seeing her beat up like that was hurtful. I couldn't even watch it. Like it was hard. It was really hard to see her in that position. I love seeing Harley go to bat for her. I love seeing Frank get pulled in, and that kind of full circle moment with Frank and Jason. That was really rough though. Like, let's talk about the details of the green. I love them going back and forth in the green, how powerful the connection with all of them is, and seeing how like the colors were so different. Like Jason's like yellow and gross, kind of signifying bacteria and fungus. And Ivy's green and brown. Like I love that. So let's talk about Jason and the fallout of like him getting buzzsawed to death. What do you guys think? Keenan?
Yeah, I felt like with that with him in terms of visually representing, like again, green or what do you call like weeds, like that kind of get taken out, that come and kind of go through the creeks, and stuff like that, representing more of like a parasitic type of plant, which again, there's goods and there's good side of plant and of the green and bad side of it. And so I'd like that they're coming from the same source, but at the same time, it represents who they are. He's evil and sinister, she's definitely powerful. But also the fact that she also had Frank pair with was his name Frank, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I think
Frank
it was nice to have them together too, and doing what they can together, because they started this with each other, with that relation, because he was there too, only as this, small plant and everything. But I think in terms of the power set, I don't really know much about the Floronic Man in comics, but because I think they made him in a more, I guess you can say in the comics, they made him more, I guess, attractive, sexy way in the comics, but then this is like, no, he's a monster. Let's make him a monster. So I like that they visually not trying to give shortcuts, of this, trying to give some type of, negative, like, oh my God, but he's so handsome, like, no, that was his human form. And they like, nope, this is who he is in his core.
What you think?
So this made me think of a Charmed episode. As I'm rewatching Charmed. Do you remember in season 4, and it's a slightly problematic episode, the Enter the Zen, it's like the Zen Master episode. And so they show like when you go into limbo and it reflects like the person who's there. And so I'm going to call him the Moronic Man, thanks to Frank. How he just kind of took over the landscape. When Ivy goes in, it's green and lush and beautiful and life is thriving. And then when you see him emerging from the tree, it just completely like devastates the landscape within the green. And it just to prove like he is such a rotten person that he can just like take over the most beautiful space. And I was worried for Frank. I also thought he was going to say, Frank, I'm your father.
Very Darth Vader like. Yes,
I was waiting for it to happen, and then it did not.
But he's not. He could have lied and said that. That's the thing about, I think the great thing about like the Jason stories that we get really quickly. It was only 2 right so far 2 episodes, like he's dead, alleged. I guess we know he's dead.
Well,
you gotta torch him.
I mean, he is like a plant, so we don't know if he's for sure gone. I don't think he is. But one of the things I like is that they just clearly display that he was a piece of shit before all this happened, and this is just a manifestation of him being an even bigger piece of shit. But I appreciated like Frank saving, like all of them teaming up to save the day, and Harley literally breaking in. It was like her busting through Poison Ivy's like mental barriers that she's had up, because she's like having nightmares about this man, and she still won't talk about it, and it's on the news. It made the news. So speaking of the news, we have to talk about Daily Planet and Clayface's kidnapping of Perry White, and also I want to talk about Perry and Lois's relationship a little bit. I don't like their relationship in this show. That's obviously they're on purpose, but almost every version of Perry and Lois is a very mentor-mentee, father-daughter relationship. He always has her back, always like he literally will listen to her. He pulls her in. She eventually becomes editor-in-chief. She's currently editor-in-chief right now in the comics because he went to bat for her. So like I don't really like their relationship in the show. I know it's for a purpose in this, like to show Lois as a down and out woman journalist, but like I really wish they would have done this with anyone else. We have other characters on the Daily Planet that like have that misogynist. I don't know. He just something about it is just not my favorite. But then like Clayface takes over, and it's just like, well, I guess Perry's not going to be a huge part of the show this because it'll be Clayface. But let's talk. Yeah, what do you guys think about the Daily Planet, Perry, and all that?
I completely agree. I love that mentor-mentee relationship, like the My Adventures with Superman, where this is where their relationship is growing, and you see where it's going to go with that show. And this is a little bit more like, no, you get it from me. This, just trust me on this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I felt, because there's also like, I understand we're in Metropolis, but you could use other reporters to like I mean, Gordon Godfrey, like you could use him, like he's an asshole, so it's like it makes sense, like it's not an off character. And I mean, and you are listening. I understand the show tackle a lot of themes and stuff like that, but not everything has to be a relation. Like, okay, well, let's show a woman in the workplace, and let's like, no, we already know Lois Lane. You already have that writing of female empowerment with Harley and Ivy and stuff like that. Like, it just the change of character from Perry. I understand, like, yeah, he's a boss and stuff like that, but it's like you could use other characters to report on a news TV show. Like, it could be something like he's on the news, like Godfrey's on the news and just talking crap about the show, which is realistic now today in current times than what you see in the paper. But I mean, again, it's just journalism. It's either way. But I felt with that, this was kind of like one of like my weakest parts of this episode, just because like I like Clayface, but I just felt like, okay, again, as you mentioned, we're in Metropolis. Let's actually have Sid as well. Like, where's Lena? I haven't seen Lena this episode. I'm just like, hey, I want to see more of her, so at least kind of understand her character and stuff like that. But I felt like when he's in the room, right, typing, where with the Perry, I thought he was writing the script for his own movie. It's like, and that's supposed to be like meta or something or whatever. I don't know. Like they had James Gunn in this show. I'm like, I'm just like, come on. I mean, it's not far stretch. I don't know how far this show was. How the episodes were done before they announced the show, probably a while ago. But I thought that would have been funny. It's just like, writing my script for my movie.
That would be so fucking funny if they made that a thing. Like,
I just
written by Clayface. That would be so funny.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, that would be hilarious. I was gonna say, like, I do think they plan this stuff pretty far in advance, because last year when we were at CinemaCon, when James called in to the WBD panel, the Warner Brothers panel, he was Peter. He was like 2025 will be the summer of Superman, and DC just announced the Summer of Superman special, comic book special. So like, I feel like they plan this stuff out. Like, this is a branding thing. Like, I do think that like them, I feel like that was a call to the fact that they have a Clayface movie or show. Is it a show or a movie?
Movie.
Okay. So that would be very interesting. I feel like they should make the Clayface movie a retrospective about Hollywood. You know how like The Fall Guy or like those type of movies that are about Hollywood. I feel like Clayface should be a movie about Hollywood, but with Clayface. But anyway,
Yeah, again, gods and monsters. I mean, we're in this era of
that's
that.
true.
I feel they have a unique opportunity. I'm not going to be just looking at it at this point when they announce these movies because I know the writers that they have behind it, and in fact, I'm trusting. Hey, we're not greenlighting anything unless we have a clear story and direction and know where we're heading. And that to me, whatever you have, what character you put, to me is irrelevant. Because I mean, I grew up with DC where I was a child watching this. I'm like, okay, I don't know any of these characters, but now I grow to love them. But on the grand scheme of people who read these for like 20 years before, they're like, not the popular character. I'm like, well, now I love the Question. Now I love the Huntress and other stuff, other characters I haven't normally see because you put them and you gave them a great story. So yeah, you can do the same thing with Clayface.
Facts. That's very, very true. Yeah. That's a good point. I think that CW, as much as we hate shit on the CW, and I do shit on the CW, the cool thing about the CW is that they did popularize a lot of characters that nobody would have known. And that's the same thing that the MCU did with like the Avengers. Like, let's be real. Before the movies came out, nobody was checking for Iron Man or like Thor. Like, people were
the big three were Spider-Man, Hulk, and Wolverine.
Yeah,
so like Iron Man, Cap, and Thor.
Marvel has pulled off one of the greatest rebrandings of all time with their characters, because those are now like, you can't walk into a kid store, a Target, Walmart, whatever, not seeing a Captain America shield or anything like that. So they did a really good job branding those kids. And I think DC's done on a smaller scale has done that really well too. So I hope that they're scale up and keep doing that with these smaller characters. And James is an expert on that. Like, we've seen him do it in the Marvel universe, and he's doing it already in this universe. So, and in the old universe that he stepped into with Suicide Squad. So like, James, I'm just excited to see that more, just like elevate more of those little characters. But yeah, before we end this episode, we see something at the very end after the triumphant murder and all the sex in the labs. We see
well, then maybe I should have gotten my graduate degree. I don't know.
I was like, whoa. But the bots come in and they're like, and Harley's like, we fucking idiots, we already cleaned this up. And they're not there for Jason, they're there for the two of the girls. And I think they kidnap them for Brainiac, and Brainiac and Coco are just like the bug. So I think, I mean, I'm saying I think, I know, I already watched the episodes, but next episode we're gonna see we're gonna see the girls tussle with Brainiac. I'm so excited to see this, for you guys to see this. This is gonna be fun. What are we excited about for the Brainiac Harley Ivy meeting, Keenan?
My whole thing is like, okay, we're getting to Brainiac already in episode 3. So is he not like the final villain? I'm excited. I don't even. I enjoy Brainiac. So.
Brainiac I will say that I'm no spoilers, but I really like this version of Brainiac. I put that in my review of the show. I really like this version of Brainiac. What do you think, Mike?
Okay. Yeah, I for me, again, I'm kind of trusting wherever direction they're putting with him, because again, if they're able to conquer with Darkseid, they can be like, that's in the New Gods and all that stuff. Like they can do Brainiac in Metropolis and stuff in terms of having that a contained story and stuff, and where it makes sense. But I don't know. I thought he was there to try to revive Jason or something like that. I don't know. And probably connect, plant and tech life, whatever, maybe possibly. I just almost was like, oh, well, that was a big threat. I can use that to my advantage, against them. So but I don't know, who knows. But again, to your point about the villains, like, listen, we still haven't seen, like, Red X was the most popular thing I saw when I saw the trailer for me, like, in terms of like my Teen Titans, like, childhood and stuff. So it's like, I'm waiting to see that, how that, comes into fruition and stuff. So, because like, that the Red X like mythology has been like a unspoken thing that has not been answered for like years. Even so that's just the fanboy in me would love to see how they floor that, even though I think it's Dick Grayson. It makes sense if it would be, but anyway. But I'm excited to see
Yeah, like your point. You said you're to your point. You're like, we want to see more Superman related characters, Metropolis characters, in the episode. I think that we'll be seeing that at least with a Brainiac focus next episode. So very excited about that. Any last thoughts on this episode? No. All right.
Good.
Cool.
Make sure you fertilizer.
Yeah. Pull up them weeds, fam. They will infect. They will rot. They will fuck up your tomatoes. All right. You guys can visit multiverseofcolor.com for the latest news, all podcasts of the DC TV shows, DC Comics, DC Studios. We are covering everything, but not just DC. We have other stuff too that we cover. You can read Mike's amazing review of Craven if you want to watch Craven. You can also check out the Rewind podcast. We also have a bunch of social media you can follow us on at Multiverse of Color, at DC Studio Podcast, at the Multiverse of Color, at Multiverse of Color, all on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Threads. We're still on X, Twitter. That is, well, the brand is. I personally am not anymore. But subscribe to our DC TV mega feed on Apple Podcasts. Give us 5 stars because that's awesome, and we like to see that. Give us comments. If you have feedback, you can email us at the DC Studios Podcast at gmail.com. Before we go, where can we find you guys? Mike.
Yeah, you can find me on YouTube, on Instagram, social media, all that at Jedi Mike 7. Brought to you by So One Media. I have a bunch of interviews and reviews coming up, and video breakdowns going to next month. Black History Month, Captain America's coming out, and all that stuff. So I'll be also writing my article for that too. So, so be on the lookout for that at Jedi Mike 7.
What about you, Keenan? Where can everyone find you?
You can find me on Blue Sky and Fanbase at Geeks on Camera. I'm really trying to step away from the meta people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, same. I am at Vanessa Shark on Blue Sky. I've been updating my website. VanessaShark.com is finally updated. I have been updating it recently. I'm committed to, anytime I get the urge to post on my stories, I'm going to post on my website. I'm trying to focus all my content onto my website or Multiverse of Color. But I am on Blue Sky, and I have Snapchat, so you can no, don't add me.
No, don't do. Yeah. Hold up. Hold up
for you.
I actually don't
step in. Hell no.
I actually don't.
No. We'll see you guys next week. Bye bye.